has a speech called "It Will Take Everything." It's from the Confident Communicator, and it's number 10, so it finishes her use of the book. She wants to be an inspiration to all of us. And so, I think that's enough of the introduction.
Fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests, I think. I don't recognize you. I'm going to be doing the introduction to the speech, and what I'm doing is responding to the speech. So, hurry on. What I'm looking at is, as part of our team day, I'm going to be talking to you about a project that we're going to be doing. I want to give you a little background on an issue that was there, what we've, the project that we've come up with, and then what we would like to have you as our team help us with. One of the issues that we have is pain control is a low score on our HCAHPS. And HCAHPS are the hospital consumer assessment, patient care, in the systems. It's initials for that. And what that's is something that it's data that patients have access to. Okay? So as you know, one of the HCAHP indicators is that Medicare uses to help reimburse the hospitals is looking at pain level control. And so that's a very important metric for you as well as the institution, for all of us as well as the institution. Our unit, myself, and the practice committee have looked at the data, our HCAHPS data on pain. We were really very frustrated that they were that low. We're a surgical unit. That's what we do. We're teaching patients about pain, we're giving pain medication from the time they come back from the OR right through their discharge plan. How can they not know that we're trying so hard to make their pain better? Well, the fact is, they do. They know that you're working very hard. I, as a leader, am doing leadership rounds, talking to patients. They're saying, oh yes, they're doing wonderful, extraordinary things to kind of help keep my pain under control. So they do know it. However, they're getting these surveys after they've gone home. And so it comes up as an always, usually, never format. And so patients say, well, yeah, they're usually in there. They're usually taking care of it. Yeah, they think that they're getting good grades. And unfortunately, they don't realize that's like a failing grade to us. So you feel like, well, what's the point? We don't get credit for it anyway. Well, the good point is that all of those ones that are in the usual can be tipped over into the always bucket by just tweaking what we're doing a little bit. We know that there's a few of them that are going to say never. For whatever reason, they weren't satisfied. They'll never get to the always. But those ones in the middle, in the usually, have the ability to be changed over into that always bucket. So our committee has looked at the data, kind of to see where we're at this point. They've done a literature search, kind of see what's out there, what are other people doing to get their grades up. And then they've also looked at this HCAHPS handbook. This is a wonderful book that's got a lot of information on what kind of tips we can do to help get our grades up. So what they found with all of that data is that patients want control. They're They want things, we need to get things right out in front of them so that they can see what's going on. So with that, you can see we changed our whiteboards, the little boards that we have in our rooms for patients. We've changed some of the headings, and we've brought all of the pain indicators over in one area. So they're all up in this right corner. Got a nice area of space for it. So it really shows that's an important part of their plan of care. So what does that mean to each of you? What I'm depending on you guys to do two things. The first is documentation. So when you look at this board, when they first come in, I need you to go and kind of talk with the patient, kind of see what is their comfort goal. What number out of that 0 to 10 scale that they're going to be asked, do they think, yeah, I can get up and walk, I can do the things that I need to. And then I want you to put that up there. So we've got a starting place to do. The next is looking at pain control. Look at all of the different things that we've got available to them. We've got our PCA, the pills, all of those kinds of things, as well as anything that they do at home for treatments. Maybe they do stuff that isn't a narcotic. So they can have all of that information up there for them. The other thing is communication, constant communication. So we want you to be making sure that you're communicating with that patient. Oh, your pain pill is due at 10 o'clock. I'm going to give you the pain pill. Okay, now it's due at 4 o'clock. Look at there, we've got it every 6 hours, so the next time you can have it as 4 o'clock. So they know the next time that they can actually have it. So if they're not asking, it's right in front of their face again. And then also talking to them, well, you know, you can't have it till 4, but if you're having pain, let me know. Don't be just biting the bullet. We've got some Tylenol that you can have for breakthrough in the middle of there, so that you're constantly talking with them. The next is your colleagues. As you go in and do report off with the next nurse, you go in and make sure that you're doing it in front of the patient. You're using your board so that they're visualizing what you're talking about. Oh yeah, their comfort goal is 3. They stayed pretty close to that. They've had the fentanyl, but we're trying to get off of that, so we've kind of started on the pain pills. The next have it at 4 o'clock. He hasn't had to have anything for breakthrough. So that they're again seeing and hearing all of the good things that you're doing for them. Kind of reinforce that. And then the third one is to check with physician. If the plan isn't working, make sure you're getting a hold of them, get something done a little bit differently. Really, you're doing a phenomenal job on it. It's just the tweaking it to kind of help them to kind of visualize what you're doing all the time so that they're perceiving that pain control that they're getting there. Okay? The committee this is just our starting point. We would like any of your feedback, so as you get working with the patients and if you see something that you think might help with this, please give us feedback. We're going to be looking at it monthly and then tweaking it and kind of getting back to you. Okay? There's a saying Vince Lombardi had. Perfection is unattainable. But if you go for perfection, you will probably catch excellence. And excellence is what we want for our patients. Right now, we're sitting at 73% on these goals for the always responses. We need to have 80%. It isn't too far, but we need to have 80% to get full reimbursement. So we need to move that up. And we need closer to 100% for our own personal goals to make sure that we're doing the best for our patients. And those goals are attainable. I know that you can do that. Questions or concerns that I can answer for you in regards to the process so that I can depend on you guys to help us to be a success with this. Yes?
Have we ever thought of notifying the patients that usually is not a good score for our surveys?
That would be a very good thing, and many of the car dealers and the tax people and everybody else says that, but we are not allowed to give them the actual questions specifically, or to say, I need you to put down always. It's call it unethical. We have to know that we're dealing with this, and we just have to kind of tweak things until we get it. And we can. They know that you're doing great things. It is frustrating, but we're going to get there. We just need to kind of keep working on it, and kind of, as I talk with patients, I do tell them that, you know, I kind of ask, you know, well, how are we doing? Would you say always? Usually, and I usually have a little less for the usually, or never, kind of for the response. And if they say usually, I say, oh, okay, well, we're always working towards always, so that even when they get the survey, they will go in that direction. But we do what we can, okay? Anything else? Well, thank you very much for your time. We'll be starting on the 21st, and we'll keep you informed on any changes and updates as we go. Okay? Thank you.
I would like to thank you for a demonstration of a commitment to excellence. I was really impressed by your attitude and by all the steps you took to do it. Ahmed is going to share some interesting facts about collections of English words. This is from the Competent Communicator Project for how to say it. Ahmed would like to share his convictions about the contributions that every member of society, knowingly or unknowingly, contributes to the growth of our society. The title is Word of the Day. Please join us in welcoming Ahmed.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most distinguished guests. Our word of the day today is ardent, which is having or showing very strong feelings. Used in a sentence, it means I could say, I'm an ardent supporter of public speaking and Toastmasters. Very often, I would have to resort to something like the Webster's Dictionary to get the word of the day. On other occasions, I would go to the dictionary.com. I wanted to go to the queen and the champion of dictionaries, which happened to be the Oxford English Dictionary. So like a lazy guy I am, I went to the computer and sent a request to the librarian. Please send me a volume of the Oxford English Dictionary. I got a very polite reply. It suggested that I've never visited the library. I have never been there. Our distinguished librarian is sitting here. In her most distinguished and simple manner, she said, the Oxford English Dictionary comes in 20 volumes. It's got 29,000 pages with 59 million words. How many million words do you need? So it took me to the thing, how could somebody make such a dictionary? As with every giant project, whether it's the Mayo Clinic or the Oxford Dictionary, there is often a story behind it. I kind of dug deeper to find, are there any stories behind it? Yes, I found out this book, which is now a blockbuster and a movie coming out. It's called The Professor and the Madman by Simon Winchester. It so happened that the project of developing an Oxford dictionary started around in 1857. Nothing really happened much till about 1884 when the first edition started rolling in. It was such a mammoth undertaking. The first editor-in-chief, Joseph Murray, was a very smart man. He realized he couldn't do it alone. He wanted to bring the whole community together. So he placed advertisements in the newspapers, which were sent to the local bookstores and the libraries, requesting for volunteers to submit quotations of words like we do, used in the form of a sentence. These words could be normal words, the commonly used ones, the rare ones, the 16th and the 17th and the 18th century ones, the obsolete ones. It turned out to be an amazing project. When you turn the papers of the Oxford English Dictionary, every word has a root. It's broken up. Where did the word come from? How many different pronunciations are there in the word? How could it be used here and there? That's why it's 29,000 pages. When it came time to honor the people who worked, one name stuck out, William Chester Minor. He had by himself submitted 10,000 of these quotations. Anytime the Oxford people had a problem, they would reach out to William Minor, write him a letter, can you do a research on this topic? And he would do, and he would send papers. They requested him to come and meet the editor. He didn't show up. They threw a great party for him in the Oxford, big, massive gardens of Oxford. He didn't show up. How can you refuse Oxford when they want to respect you and reward you and you don't show up? Then they started investigating. They were horrified to realize the much educated William Chester Minor was an inmate of the Broadmoor Asylum for the criminally insane. It happens that William Chester Minor was an American. He was a Yale-trained surgeon who served in the Civil War, in the Battle of the Wilderness in 1864. How did he end up in a criminal asylum? A lot of people have written about it. They thought it probably was a post-traumatic stress disorder. He had seen so much blood and gore in the war that transformed him. In fact, he was asked to go and tattoo the letter D on an Irish deserter of the Civil War. He worked in the Union Army and also the country of origin. They said that really changed him. No, he had schizophrenia. He would get psychosis, he would get delusions. When he was honorably discharged, he moved around in New York and in Florida, and he was seen moving around in the so-called red light areas. Things didn't look good, so they admitted him in the St. Elizabeth Hospital in Washington, D.C. in 1868. He stayed there for 18 months, made no change. There was no change in his personality, and they let him go. He showed up in England in 1871 and stayed in a place called Lambeth near London. For no good reason, he chased this poor guy, his name was Chester Minor, and shot him. He thought that this guy was breaking into his house. So they brought him into trials and they found him, he was insane. So they thought he's not fit for trial, you can't convict him, so they put him in this Broadmoor Asylum for the criminally insane. But he had a good pension from the Civil War. He would get an American pension and he would buy a lot of books, and he was a minimal threat, so they gave him 2 rooms. In fact, he could hire somebody to help him stock his books. That's where he came across the need for these quotations. He read it, that they needed it, and he started writing books after books of these quotations. The story goes that Eliza, who was the widow of the person who shot, helped him actually buy some of the books. In fact, the editor of the Oxford English Dictionary came and met him to personally thank him. And the superintendent was nice enough to make that happen. They knew when he was lucid, so that he's not going to chase the editor with a knife or something. There is yet another word of the day which I'm going to use, and that is wonder, which means to think, to pause. It makes me wonder how many of these people who are incarcerated have skills that we are not utilizing. How many patients who have mental illness, I wonder, whose skills we are not utilizing. What I don't stand to wonder is the wonderful contributions of all of us. So whether it's the Mayo Clinic, whether it's the Oxford Dictionary, or whether it's the huge mammoth building which I saw in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, called the largest building, Dubai Mine. Each of them have people who have all kinds of issues going on in their life who are contributing. So each of the word of the day, there is so many stories behind it that when we dive deep into it, you see the humanness of Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much for dramatizing the history of an extraordinary dictionary. Can we have a minute? What I got was that we have two ways of thinking. Our conscious way of thinking, which is when we're working hard and planning and structuring, and our unconscious way, where things happen without our even knowing about them. And my understanding of what Dao Tso was trying to say, and what this book is trying to say, is that it's the unconscious thinking that has a great impact on people, and the spontaneity can be very valuable. This is a technique that great athletes use. The athletes talk about being in the groove. It really means relaxing and letting their unconscious do it. Actors say, we want to be spontaneous. Actors even sometimes ad-lib in order to reach that spontaneity. So I just want to say that there are two ways to win, Amit's way and my way. I don't get to be evaluated, I'm sorry to say. Would you like to start the deal?
Mr. Toastmaster. I am filling in on short notice, and I have been away for a while, so there are some fresh faces here that I don't recognize. We don't typically call on our guests for table topics, but if you feel a question resonates with you and you would like to volunteer, we welcome you to do so. At this time, the first question I'll ask is a very easy one. What do you feel is your greatest accomplishment? Anyone? Elizabeth?
Why didn't you start here?
What do you feel is your greatest accomplishment?
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, and with a show of hands, guests? Wow, we have lots of guests. Thank you. This question had me by surprise because I have done so many things in my life that I have felt proud of, but I'm not sure that I have felt that it has been any one of those have been my greatest accomplishment yet. I think that once I retired and I feel that I had a productive life and I had enough money to enjoy retirement, I think will be my greatest accomplishment. Why do I say that? If I leave the workforce feeling that I didn't get anything done, that I didn't contribute to the organization I work for or society, I will feel empty going into retirement. If I don't have money to enjoy retirement, I will be extremely sad, and I will feel like I don't have a purpose in life. You know, I work hard, and I don't have money now that I'm retired. So I think the greatest accomplishment that I will ever have is in the future. Retiring, having accomplished something in my life, and having the money to enjoy the retirement. Maybe the later.
The next question. Rocky is the story of one of man's battles to overcome insurmountable odds. What is the greatest barrier you have ever had to overcome? Any volunteers? The greatest barrier you have ever had to overcome? Nate, do you think you could answer this one?
Sure. The greatest barrier I've had to overcome. It's actually going to be one of my speech topics, and the first table topics I ever got when I was a member, I kind of talked about it, but it was in my career, I'm a copywriter, and kind of like what you do is you apprentice under a better copywriter, like I would be called a copy cub, and the better writer would be called my copy chief. And what was it, barrier again? Was to get, there's a list by a website called Who's Mailing What, and it lists the top 50 direct response copywriters in the world, and he's #1 on the list, and it took like a million phone calls, it feels like, to him, and I actually flew across the country spontaneously to take him out to lunch, and thank God he said yes, but that's how I got my copy chief for my career, and best thing I ever had.
And I'm throwing this question out there with the hope that one of our guests or newer members would volunteer for this question, because I think it's topical for anybody who's sitting here checking out our club. What are some of the benefits you have gained or would like to gain from our Toastmasters program? Anybody want to take a stab at this? Thank you. And John?
Yep.
Thank you.
I started coming back in October, and I've been observing many different things and many different topics. And I'm gonna have a little fun here and jump on the screen, one topic, table topic. But it also, I thought I was fairly well at public speaking, and it's not really humiliated is the right word, but it could be. I'm not a master of public speaking. I watch Annette, I watch Chris. There are many, many things to learn, and how people will move around in this stage and talk to this one place, and they'll move on to a second place. That doesn't come easy for me. It's something that I'm working on. And it also helps me watching the evaluations of people, what they say works, and what they say does not work. And at times I really looking for that green card and green light to come on. I'm almost done, and that's my green light is there. But I'm very glad I started coming to Toastmasters, and it's been a great thing. And I am working on my first speech, so hopefully soon.
I have this question earmarked for somebody, but if anybody would like to volunteer, I welcome that. What do you feel are the requirements to be a good leader? Amit? I know you've spoken already, but you have given a wonderful speech on this. Would you be so kind?
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most distinguished guests. As our world is changing, becoming more connected, and the workforce is becoming more diverse with more cultural variation, a leader has to grow from being a follower. We all expect the leader to have six-pack muscles and rippling here and rippling there, to be a dynamic speaker. But first and foremost thing which is required these days for a leader is to be a good listener. We all think about Toastmaster as a process of speaking, but I think the most valuable communication tool which I have seen the most effective leaders to do is to sit down in a corner and listen. You see, when you speak, you're speaking from your mouth, and you're hearing it only in your ears. But when you're listening, you're not only using your ears, you're using your eyes and your heart. You're looking at the whole body language. So an effective leader is not a rash leader. It does not jump to conclusions by getting few facts and points. He's actually a follower of a lot of things as to how things are going. So more and more leaders are being called what is called the servant leader. Like an effective leader has to serve what he's meant to serve. So apart from the technical skills, apart from the skills which we pressurize all throughout our careers to learn, is it a new skill, is a fact, and we feel proud about it, that doesn't make a leader. I've seen very few leaders who have GPA of 4.0. Our average president's GPA is 3. George Bush was probably 2.2 or 3. But that is what makes it is.
Thank you so much for a lovely bunch of questions.
You're welcome, Joe.
And now I think we should have our general evaluator. Is it traditional for the general evaluator to run the meeting now?
Appreciate your work as Toastmaster today. As general evaluator, I'm going to bring up our evaluation team, and then when they're finished doing their evaluations of all the speakers today, then I'll have some other comments as well if we have time. So our first evaluator looks like Chris N. So he will be coming up to evaluate Evans.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters and very distinguished guests, it is really wonderful to see a high ratio today. Joe is one of the people that I really enjoy getting wisdom from. You just never know when it's going to come from. And one of the best pieces of wisdom that I've heard from him helps me as an evaluator. Minnesota Nice is a great thing for tourism, but it is not the best thing for a successful evaluation. That's not foreshadowing necessarily. But I just want to stress that we are, for our guests, that we strive to point out the good. And we also point out what needs improving, and then we wrap it up again with some other good advice. So with that being said, Beverly, that you are wrapping up your manual. You have gone through many topics and types of speeches to culminate in your communicator manual masterpiece, so to speak. You told me that this, for this speech, that you were going, this was a pretend presentation or a practice presentation, and I think it would have been better to maybe have a better introduction to bring us into your work unit. I got the sense that it was meant to be kind of a rally after a while, and it would have been a little bit better to pause, take a deep breath, and bring us into your world. You did a very good job with telling us the history, how the process works. It's not just a patient comes in, a patient goes out, money comes in. There's feedback, there is metrics that need to be met, and also it was very nice to know that you need to be very mentally invested in the patients for them to take a very strong part in their own care. And I think if this is going to be a presentation, the reputation aspect is very good. The money aspect, to me, while important to mail, doesn't really speak to me when I'm trying to be motivated. I think maybe if you're doing this again, focus more on This means that we are doing a good job. This means that we are doing the most that we can for the patient, and if they give us a good score, then that is what then we have accomplished what we've set out to do. And with that, if you want any more, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. We have another evaluation.
And now we're gonna bring up Nathan to evaluate.
Thank you, General Evaluator, Toastmasters. Yes, I had very ardent feelings when I got the January schedule and I saw I would be evaluating Amit. And I woke up with butterflies because I knew I would have to pick out something he did bad, which is hard. So I was sitting back there and I was like, all right, I'm here, I can do it. And then right after Amit's speech, Joe's comes up here and talks about how Amit's a paragon of public speech. Thanks, Joe. But, so your speech was number 4, I think, in the manual on how to say it. It says, was the speech topic appropriate for this particular assignment? And it was good, and I like how you used the word of the day right at the beginning, even though you didn't. It was Tom who had the word of the day. I didn't know the Oxford Dictionary was 59 million words or whatever. That was crazy. And I like how he kind of transitioned into the story about the guy, and it was a nice twist that he was like an inmate or prisoner of an asylum or whatever. That was crazy. And I guess where you could have, it's hard to pick something you did bad, so something you could have done, you could have added, I guess, to make it better would have been, instead of just a picture of what the Oxford Dictionary looks like, to bring in the whole set of them. Compare them.
I tried.
And then,
It's so rare and so expensive. Mayor would rather give us white eye rather than give me Oxford Dictionary.
and, well, the rest of them are just kind of, did the speaker avoid jargon and unnecessary words? You did all of that, so I'm just going to end there, and thank you for your speech.
We'll quickly have our reports from Time and Marianne. So we'll do our Marianne first.
Evaluator, Toastmasters, yes. For the second part of the grammarians report, I'm going to tell how many people said connector words, doubles, and then any colorful species that I wrote down. Joe, I only heard one connector. It sounded like he said and. So for me, I had quite a few connectors. I had 4 initially. Jennifer, I had 1 Beverly, 2 ahs, and 13 ums. Amit, I didn't hear any ahs or ums or connectors. Elizabeth, I heard 1 and. Nothing from Abby. For Nate, I heard 1 ah, 1 and then you used like a couple times. I counted at least 3 of them. Chris used 4 ahs, and Deanna used 1 ah, 1 and John, you had 2 connectors. For the word of the day usage, I only heard Amit and Nate use it. For colorful speeches, for Joe, you said working hard may have a negative side effect for me when you were talking during your speeches. And then you said there are 2 ways to win, Amit's way and my way. Beverly, I liked your quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was something along perfection is unattainable, but if you go for perfection, you'll end up at excellence. Amit, there was a couple ones I put down for you. Lazy man that I am, I sent the librarian a request. Somehow that resonated with you at school. And then you said, you talked about the incarcerated person, William, I think it was, but much educated. He was an inmate for the criminally insane. And then for Nate's at the end, we were just talking about, instead of bringing a picture of the Oxford Dictionary, should have brought the whole set.
Thank you. And now our timer.
Some wonderful speeches today. As far as timing goes, Beverly, our first speaker, asked for 8 to 10 minutes, and you took 9 minutes and 47 seconds. Ahmed, our second speaker, asked for 6 to 8 minutes, slightly over at 8 minutes and 23 seconds. Table topics number 1, remember table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. Elizabeth was 1 minute and 41 seconds. Nate, 56 seconds. John, 1 minute and 15 seconds as you waited for that green light to come on. And Ahmed, again, you had 1 minute and 54 seconds. And then for our evaluators, you get 2 to 3 minutes. Special thanks to Chris, who was very patient as I put the green card up at 1 minute, making a mistake. You went 3 minutes and 45 seconds ago. Nate Gartner, you were at 2 minutes.
So overall, the meeting today went really well. We had a lot of role changes, and so I appreciate the Toastmaster and others trying to fill the roles and the changes that happened today to make the meeting run smoothly. I want to again welcome all of our guests, and I appreciate that you came today. We have some forms if you want to fill out, or information if you'd like some more information. But I also want to invite you personally, again, to come back a few more times and check out different meetings, because each one is different. And to understand what we're doing. We clap when everyone comes up and goes back to encourage folks. We try to create an environment where all levels of learning and mentoring and courage are here. We check our ums and ahs, and some of these comments that we get on written sheets or with the actual evaluators help you go back and perfect your speaking and your comfort level to speak in public. And that's what this is about. So I encourage you to keep coming back and to fulfill your goals of speaking better, speaking more interestingly or passionately, whatever it is that you're looking for. Appreciate that. With that, I will say improvements for the group. We all had passion and enthusiasm and great delivery, maybe a little bit more preparedness. We felt a little hurried and a little off today. So maybe next week it'll be better. Thank you.
In other words, she wants you to work harder. Does anybody have any announcements?